Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
Hey, welcome back. Good to be with you. Welcome to the month of October. Man, we're just rolling along. Episode number 34 here of Weather Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Bailey with Wish TV in Indianapolis. Good to be with you here on kind of a gloomy week here in central Indiana. It's been awfully cloudy and it's been a bit wet. Kind of what you would think of typical fall weather. We haven't gotten the cool down yet, right? October can traditionally be a very transitional month. I know we say that about September too. Both of those months here as we started kind of easing into fall here. Start to kind of bring in the full effect of the fall chill, especially by the end of October. But we haven't felt it yet, thankfully. So we're still benefiting from some mild air, but it's been awfully gloomy, dating back to really the weekend here, the first weekend of October. Some pretty good rain here in parts of central Indiana. And it's kind of rolled along here for the first half of the week. But it's good to be with you here. And we're not going to get too in depth about October yet. So that's going to be the main part of our focus here on the main body of the podcast. Actually, I want to take a look back at September, and we will hit up on some things that we look ahead to in October. October gives you a little bit of everything. For sure, here in central Indiana. I did want to hit up on some of the headlines locally. I was just kind of Googling this now. I'm recording this on the 4th. So eventually at some point today or maybe early on the 5th, we're going to have the new crop report. So we'll kind of hit up on this over the next couple of weeks, but we are in harvest season. The crops have been doing very, very well here in Indiana. And the crop report, so it was the last one for September, came out. Corn's in good condition. Beans are in good condition. That's good. There was a little bit of harvesting going on for each. The week ending in the 26th, so that would have been a couple of weeks ago, right? There was about 22% of the corn harvested. Beans were at 15%. That was above the 5-year average to that point. I think a lot of the farmers were probably trying to get out there early, knowing what might have been coming in with rain chances here and maybe not as much opportunity this past week here. So didn't have a real heavy rain, but we had some steady rain, especially over the weekend. And there were some pretty good downpours on Sunday too. There may be some opportunities here for this week, but we're going to have some of these rain chances. We'll talk about that in the forecast. So this was something, since it's all kind of tied in weather related, I like to kind of at least hit up on this. It's a big thing. We've got a lot of agricultural areas in Indiana. I know there's a few of you that are farmers and listen to the podcast. You've reached out before, and I appreciate that. And so we'll hit up on that. I know this is all info that you get, but it all ties in together, right? We talked to Jason Mock, one of my earlier podcast episodes, very successful farmer out of Delaware County, and he gave a lot of insight on kind of how that all plays out. So we'll watch, but I think we had a pretty decent weather year to kind of help cooperate with some of the farmers here this year. Didn't really get stuck in too much of a drought. We had some beneficial rain when we needed it. Got some dry time when we needed that too. So I think it all worked out, and hopefully we're going to get some dry time to allow for the hardworking farmers here in the state to get things done here. Hopefully we'll get some good weather coming along. Nationally speaking, nothing major weather-wise really brewing across the nation or even internationally. I'm not going to hit up too much on, but there was a pretty nasty oil spill out in California, so they're working on that. But there might be some stormy weather here over the coming days around that region in California, and so that could hinder some of the cleanup efforts there. Tropics-wise, not super busy. We've got a couple of systems. We've got Sam. Sam's been around for the past week. It was a massive, massive hurricane. It's been downgraded, and it's now in the northern Atlantic, and it is way out to sea, not really in line to impact anything as of right now. So in good shape there. Victor is also now a post, or I guess they're calling it the remnants of Victor. That's the official name from the National Hurricane Center. As of Monday midday, with 30-mile-per-hour sustained winds. So not super major, not organized, not anticipated to become reorganized. And there's only one little disturbance that's off the northern coast of of Haiti. And it has a 0% chance of any development over the next 48 hours. So we'll see if that maybe kind of tries to get its act together over the coming days. But as of right now, does not look to be a threat tropics-wise out in the Atlantic. We like to see that as we're kind of getting on the downswing of the active hurricane season. It was busy there for a little while, but doesn't look like we have any significant waves that are coming off the coast of Africa or anything like that. So we're in pretty good shape there. All right. So pretty brief on the headlines, which isn't a bad thing. We like that. Coming up, we are going to look ahead at first of all, we're going to look back at the month of September, kind of the climate stats on where we stood. Did have some wet times. We did have some cool times. We also had some pretty hot times for September as well. We'll let you know where we stood for the month of September. We're going to look ahead to the month of October as well and what you can expect over the coming weeks. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
Episode number 34. Thanks for sticking with me here as we now open up the books to October of 2021. What will it be in store? Well, let's look back at the month of September. Actually, September this year was interesting. We were kind of on the top third tier on both temperature and on precipitation, officially ranked as the 30th warmest on record in Indianapolis and the 23rd wettest on record also in Indianapolis, excuse me. So, we started off kind of on the cooler end of things, but boy, did we just pick it up by the middle of the month. What I think was interesting, I think on the 3rd, from the right up here from the Weather Service, which, by the way, you can go onto their homepage, the Indy Weather Service, weather.gov/IND. They've got their September climate report out. On the 3rd of September in Indianapolis, we only recorded a high of 78, and it was only the second sub-80-degree high temperature in 49 days. So we had a very long stretch of very warm weather, right? By the middle of the month, we were talking temperatures about 10 degrees above average. The hottest temperature that we could find through the month was 93. That was in Shelbyville on the 18th. That was the hottest day of the month for most sites. Over a dozen co-op stations and most first-order airports reached the low 90s. Tipton made it into the low 90s all 3 days, including 92 on the 18th and 19th. 90-plus marks were hit on 2 of the 3 days at 5 other stations, mainly along the Wabash Valley. We did get kind of a brief stint of fall-like weather. If you remember, I believe it started on the 21st. We had some of those cooler mornings, and boy, was it refreshing during the day. We had numbers into the 40s in many locations for overnight lows. That really went on through that kind of 21st to maybe 25th, 26th stretch before we kind of jumped again and saw numbers rising to the 80s and close to 90 in a lot of spots. So Official reporting numbers, September 2021 average was 70.2. Again, that's highs and lows and everything in between. It's on the plus side of 2.4 degrees here in Indianapolis. Hottest temperature never hit 90 in Indy officially. We had 89 on the 18th and 19th. That 90, man, that was elusive. We ended up getting close to where our average was. But we had so many days that was either at 88 or 89. I mean, we were right on the cusp, right? And your body doesn't really know the difference too much between 89 and 90. So I think the summer will probably be a little bit hotter when you look back at, the warm season. And obviously we've had the summer report that we've talked a little bit about. But you throw in the month of September, too, which is not technically in the summer report because it's the first month of meteorological fall. I think it's going to run on the toasty side because you're going to have so many of those, upper 80s that are in there, even though your 90s aren't showing as much prevalence there. 46, coolest temperature. We did that twice in Indianapolis on the 24th and the 26th. I mentioned the Shelbyville, 93 on the 18th. Your average temperature was about 3 to the plus side. Hottest spot was Lafayette, 4 to the plus side, 4.1 officially. Had an overnight low of 42, though, on the 24th. That was one of the chillier spots that we've had here. So Indianapolis, September 2021's daily average temperatures were above normal on 18 days and below normal on 10 days. So again, it marks the 30th warmest September in the Indianapolis area since weather records began in 1871, placing it in the 80th percentile. You talk about precip. We did pretty well there too. There was one day that was really, really wet, and we picked up almost half of our monthly total, if you remember. We finished in Indianapolis 5.25 inches of rainfall, a little over 2 inches of rain in Indy on the plus side, and the wettest day was 2.07 on the 22nd. We had 6 days in a row of rain between the 8th and the 13th. So that was kind of a wet stretch, but the wettest day was on the 22nd. And again, 23rd wettest, and that was since records began in 1871. So it looks like if you look at a map, and they have a pretty good map here on this climate report for September, monthly totals. I mentioned the 5+. It was about 5.25 here in Indianapolis. There were areas in southern Indiana that exceeded 6, even 7 inches. I'm seeing up in northern, I believe that's in the southern part of the state, so north of Salem, right on the Jackson County line, 7.51 inches of rainfall. That's more in the Kentucky or Louisville, Alphas area. But certainly a little bit heavier rain the farther south you go. Southern Johnson County, 7.84 inches. It looks like that was south of Franklin, kind of between Franklin and Edinburgh there. That's the highest number I'm seeing on the map right now. Looks like there might be an 8-inch report up in Muncie, a couple of 7 3/4 over near the Winchester area in Randolph. So there were some pretty beefy numbers, as high as 7 or 8 inches of rainfall for the month of September. So that makes it a very, very soggy month across our area. Didn't get a lot of severe weather. Pretty quiet here. There's only 2 noteworthy episodes on the evening to early morning of the 7th and 8th. You had an approaching cold front, brought widespread thunderstorms with a few embedded, briefly strong cells. If I remember correctly, that did knock out the power in some spots on the 14th. A very warm and rather humid air mass combined with an approaching cold front to set off numerous afternoon and evening storms. A couple cells were marginally severe in far northeastern counties with reports of a downed tree and power lines and shingles blown off a house in and to the south of Muncie in Delaware County, as well as a tree downed to the east of Farmland, which is in Randolph County, so kind of in that east central Indiana area. Miscellaneous stuff they wrap up with the month's maximum wind gust. And look, September can sometimes be a windy month. Usually October, November is a little bit more windy traditionally because you're getting more severe temperature changes, just a lot of big swings in those months. But did have a 40-mile-per-hour wind gust from the northwest on the 22nd in Indianapolis. Greater wind gusts or greater peak wind gusts at other first order airports included 43 mile per hour in Muncie. That was out of the north and west on the 14th, and a 41 mile per hour gust at Lafayette from the north on the 7th. We had fog occurring on 8 days, no dense fog observed. All first order airports outside of Marion County saw fog more often on 17 days, which is not unusual, by the way, at both Bloomington and Terre Haute, and on 14 days in Shelbyville. Bloomington saw fog every day during the 15th through 22nd, while all sites observed fog during the damp 20 to 22nd range. Dense fog occurred at the Terre Haute, Bloomington, and Lafayette reporting stations on 4th, 3, and 2 days, respectively. Thunder was reported on 5 days of Bloomington and Shelbyville, 3 days in Indy, and 2 days or less elsewhere, with all sites reporting thunder on the 14th. So there you go. Kind of an unusual September. I wouldn't say it was extraordinary, but certainly, with the rain, that was pretty substantial. And it was needed at times. And I tell you what, we were lucky enough to kind of get all that rain spread out so it didn't create major issues. And it happened at the right time because we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we are now in the thick of, or getting in the beginning of, I should say, harvest time. And so, even though we're dealing with our bouts of rain here this week to open up the month of October, we're not getting gully washers here. You're not getting the heavy downpours. It may limit your field activity, but not going to be complete washouts. And hopefully things start to clear up by the end of the week into the weekend, and we'll be looking better. All right, let's look ahead to the month of October. Again, this is going to be kind of a shorty in terms of the meat of this podcast, but I did want to bring up a couple of things here. So we begin the month of October with average high of 72 and an average low of 51. By the end of the month, Halloween, our average high is 59. Our average low is 40. So that's a big swing, right? Big swing. Precip, not one of the wetter months that we typically see. Average rainfall, 3.22 inches. It's a little bit higher than September. By the way, September is I'm doing the math quickly here, fourth driest on the calendar year. And so October, right behind it, as the fifth driest. Only December, January, and February, along with September, are drier. So there you go. Well, actually, August is 0.02 of an inch drier than October. So you got kind of a drier 3-month stretch here when you get to the end of summer and early fall. We pick it up a little bit in November before it falls back quite a bit in December. I think it's also noteworthy that this is the first month coming out of the summer, out of the warm season, that we do have an average snowfall. October averages 1/10 of an inch of snowfall on the calendar year. That's the latest 30-year average, or 20-year average, I should say. Quick little stats here before we look at some significant historical marks for the month of October. The earliest measurable snowfall was October 18th, 1989. Now, don't get that confused with just snowfall, okay? Because you'll hear that there was actually a snow that fell earlier, but technically it was not measured. So measurable snowfall, you're talking a little, more than a trace. That was October 18th, 1989. This is also the time when we get to our average first freeze. So that's why you get a lot of the farmers out heavy duty end of September and the first few weeks of October. The average first freeze date is October 16th. October 16th. And I'm an allergy sufferer, and I am ready. This allergy season's been rough on me, so maybe you too. So you get a good killing freeze that helps to knock those allergies back a little bit. The earliest freeze date, by the way, we've already passed that. That is back in September 30th. We did it in 1899, and most recently in 1993. All right. So some significant numbers there pertaining to the month of October. These are some of the day in history things that I thought I found interesting. I'm not going to go through every single one and every date here. But we'll hit up on some. And it goes to show that there is just a whole host of weather that can be produced in October. Just literally a little bit of everything here. October 1st, 1977, heavy rain falls across west central Indiana, including more than 6 inches of rain near Crawfordsville. That was crop damage estimated at $5 million. On the 3rd, 1990, a tornado with a 17-mile path length causes damage to trees and houses. A high school was also damaged in Sheridan. 1972, on the 4th, at Duggar in Sullivan County, baseball-sized hail damages cars and a school. 2000, this wasn't that long ago, and I remember this very much. I just graduated high school here. And starting my first year of college. 2000, on the 5th, flash flooding kills a person in Monroe County. Flooding also occurs across much of central Indiana due to rainfall amounts between 2 and 5 inches. On the 7th, in 2014, an EF0 tornado touches down in Putnam County, damaging some trees and crops. In 1992, on the 8th, severe thunderstorms bring large hail to Alexandria in Madison County and damage buildings in Winchester, which is in Randolph County. Now, here you go. 1925, on October 9th, at Indianapolis, the earliest snowfall on record for the City Falls, which was a trace amount. Don't get confused with a measurable amount. Trace doesn't count as measurable. So, the 18th is the first measurable snow that we've had on record. The 9th is the earliest snowfall on record in Indianapolis, dating back to 1925. In 1964, on the 10th, Indianapolis, the record low temperature for the date, set at 27 degrees. In 1954, on the 11th in Franklin, at 2:15 in the afternoon, a tornado strikes the western edge of town, killing 2 people and injuring 10 more. In 1988, on the 13th, at Indianapolis, the record low temperature for the date is set at 24 degrees. In 1954, at Indianapolis, the record snowfall for the date is set at a trace of snow. So again, not the earliest measurable snow. Not the earliest measurable snow there. Let's see, going down the list here. 1989, across southern sections of central Indiana, severe thunderstorms knocked down trees, blew off a roof, and caused street flooding. On the 17th, 1988, near Libertyville in Universal, a tornado injured 4. And here you go, 1989, on the 18th at Indianapolis, the record earliest measurable autumn snowfall occurs when 0.2 inches of snow fell. So there you go, first measurable snow. On the 19th, 1989, a record October snowfall occurs for the north and central parts of the state as up to 10.5 inches of snow. 10.5 on the 19th. Fell in Kokomo, 9.3 inches, falling in Indianapolis. That's wild. Wow, 1989. I don't remember that. I would have been 8 years old, man. You guys remember that? October snowfall we had, my goodness. I mean, the sun angle even then, though, I mean, you'd think, even with all that snow, it probably doesn't stick around very long. You would think, right? It's got me curious, though, of just looking at some data. I'm going to have to look that up. That's wild to me. Let's see, October 1989. I'm curious how long it stayed cold during that month. So, wow, what a swing. All right, gang, listen to this. This is crazy. See, this is why I like doing this podcast, because I'm learning a whole lot. I mean, I was living in Indiana at that time. I was in Muncie, so we probably would have been hit pretty hard with snow there. So again, let me go through this again. 10.5 inches of snow falling in Kokomo, 9.3 inches in Indianapolis. So I'm going through the daily listings in 1989. And the date, again, was the 19th. The 19th, the high temperature in Indianapolis was 35, and 31 was the low. So we didn't get a big swing. We officially had 7.5 inches of snowfall officially fall in Indy. The snow depth did get up to 2. We went from 35 on the 19th when we had the snow to 38 on the 20th, to 59 on the 21st, 64 on the 22nd, and then we closed out the month with 6 days in a row of mid-70s. How you like that? We actually ended up into the low 60s for Halloween that year. That's crazy. But again, reiterating the fact of you get a little bit of everything in October. What also is interesting, let's see, the 13th, so quick math here. 6 days prior to the snow, 6 days prior, and 7 days technically, actually 6 and 5 days, if you want to do the math right, we had 84 2 days in a row, the 13th and the 14th. And then the 19th, we ended up with that high of 35 and 7.5 inches of snow in Indy. Man, that's crazy. That is absolutely wild. And technically, I think storm total is more than that. I guess I missed this. So, quick math, 9.1 inches total in Indy, because we got 7.5 on the 19th and 1.6 on the 20th. 1.6 on the 20th. Man, that's crazy. Crazy stuff. Things can go downhill in a hurry, right? Okay, so let's move on. On the 22nd, 1925, in Indianapolis, the record snowfall amount for the date set at 0.5 inch. On the 23rd, 1969, the record low temperature is 24. In 2001, on the 24th, 2001, thunderstorms blew roofs off homes at a few locations across central Indiana. 1962, on that same date, the 24th, 2 F2 tornadoes touched down in Vigo County. In 2001, on the 24th as well. This is kind of a rough day. Severe weather-wise, this is three in a row on the same day. Numerous severe thunderstorms produced large hail and damaging winds, along with an F1 tornado in Jennings County. On the 25th, 1962, Indianapolis, the record snowfall amount for the date is set at 1.2 inches of snow. On the 26th, in 2010, a very strong area of low pressure brings 2 tornadoes and widespread wind damage to central Indiana. In 1940, on the 27th at Indianapolis, the record high temperature for the date is set at 83 degrees. On the next day, 28th, 1976, different year, at Indianapolis, the record low temperature for the date is 20 degrees. 1996, on the 29th, a severe thunderstorm brought 70-mile-per-hour winds to Rushville, up in Howard County. 2 to 6 inches of snow fell across southern half of Indiana in 1993. 2 to 6 inches. 1878, on Halloween, Indianapolis, the coldest high temperature for the date for the city is recorded at 35, making for a cold Halloween. And also on Halloween in 2013, severe thunderstorms bring wind gusts over 60 miles per hour, resulting in damaged trees and power lines. I'm going to go back to that 1993 real quick here. 1993. And just look at the monthly data again like I did for 89. Show how weird that was. Yeah, temperatures all over the place. We do have that 2.4 inches of snowfall on the 30th. Did produce at least a 1-inch snow depth. But it looked like we got kind of chilly just before then. Not real bad, but we had kind of a string of near 70 or at 70 degree days, 24th, 25th, 26th. And then the bottom fell out by the 27th, a high of 48. 52 then on the 28th, 50 on the 29th, and then the 30th when we got the snow was 37, had a low of 31. So interesting. Just to put in perspective, take you back to last year for the month. We hit 84 twice. We actually hit the 80s 3 times for highs. Didn't have any real nasty cold days. It looks like it did briefly get cooled down. The 27th was the coldest high that we had at 47, and we did dip below freezing for the first time on Halloween. Down to 31, but Halloween actually wasn't all that bad. We hit 58, and if I do remember, it was kind of crisp, but it wasn't horrible, taking the kids out trick-or-treating. We did hit the freezing mark as early as the 16th, but did hit the 30s for the first time as early as the 2nd last year. Did get a trace of snowfall reported last year in October. That was on the 23rd. No, that can't be right. That might have been a severe storm, because I'm looking at it. We had a high of 77 and a low of 45. That wouldn't have been correct. And we had wake-up temperatures. The next day we had highs around 53, so that was probably a pretty potent cold front. Sometimes you'll get snow reported if it was hail. So if there was maybe some pea-sized hail that came with storms on the 23rd, then that may have been reported as snow. So I'm going to write that off as not snow just by judging from the temperatures there. So no snow, although it's reported as a trace in the climate report. Lastly, to close things up here, I know people are always interested because if you have kids, you're always wondering what it's like for Halloween. You're going to be taking your kids out. I think Halloween's on a Sunday, so there's probably going to be a lot of neighborhoods that'll do it either Friday night or Saturday is my guess. A lot of towns. We've kind of gone back and forth. We've gotten in this pattern, I'd say, the last several years of 1 year's warm, 1 year's not. 1 year's warm, 1 year's not. Last year, I mentioned we had a high of 58, so it wasn't a warm day, but it wasn't frigid either. It was manageable. I think you had to wear a hoodie, a sweatshirt, a little bit of layers, but not bad. We weren't miserable, if I recall correctly, going out and trick-or-treating last year. The year before that, I do remember it being awful. 47 was our high. The low was 29. I remember it being super windy. We had some spits of ice. We actually had a trace of snowfall at the airport. My kids were crying because their hands were frozen because, those Halloween costumes don't offer any protection. They're cold, and the kids don't want to wear a coat. They want to show off their costumes. So, yes, that was miserable. The year before was nice. 67 was the high. The year before that, 2017, cold, 43. Year before that, 2016, 63. 2015, not bad, 59, but then it was chilly in 2014 with 47 and a high. 2013, back to mild, 65. 2012, chilly, 45. 2011, 60. And 2010, 55. So it's been kind of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If you were kind of going to go on that line, it would mean that we're due for a colder Halloween. There's no scientific explanation for that. I'm just telling you on how the pattern has gone. It could be 80 degrees for all we know, but we also could be very chilly as well. So, prepare for whatever by the end of the month. You know how it goes at the end of October. So lots and lots of changes when you get through this month. I love one of my favorite months because October you get a little bit of everything, and so it keeps us very busy in the weather department. And I just love fall in general. I love getting that first freeze so we can knock down the allergies a little bit and the pollen. So all good stuff, and I'm looking forward to the fall season, which, by the way, too, fall foliage starts to peak in central Indiana, usually the 3rd week of October. And I think we're going to be in for a really good year as long as it doesn't get too cold too quickly, which it does not appear that's going to happen here in the short term. naturally, maybe we'll spend some time on this in maybe next week's podcast or the podcast after, why the leaves change color. A big part of that is just because we're losing daylight, right? Chlorophyll helps to fuel, that's food for the leaves, and that's why they get their green color. You lose the daylight, you're losing that fuel, and so that's where you get that gradual change, the yellows and the oranges and the reds and all the pretty colors there as trees start to go dormant in their sleep for the winter season. So maybe we'll talk about that, but I'm hopeful because we didn't have much of a drought this year. We had some good times of rain, but not too much, but we also had some periods of dry, but not too much of that we should have some really, really pretty colors across much of our state leading up here to the middle and end of the month. So we'll have an update on that, hopefully maybe next week, or we'll do that the week after. We'll keep you updated on that. We'll have a look at your first full week of October in my forecast that's coming up next here on Weather Weekly. Look at your forecast for the week of October 4th, the first full week of the month of October. Kind of gloomy here, and we definitely started off that way, right? We had some clouds, some fog, some bouts of rain. I think that trend is going to continue here for much of this week. In fact, for the midweek here, Wednesday night heading into Thursday, so that would be the 6th into the 7th, we've got a little upper level low that's going to slide in from the Gulf. It's going to squeeze out some moisture Wednesday overnight. That's going to roll into Thursday as well, and that could provide some scattered showers early on. I think maybe better chances for steadier showers coming up into Thursday morning, and some of the rainfall estimates could put us at around a half an inch of rainfall. I don't think it's going to be a super heavy rain, and again, we haven't had so many rains stacked up together that were completely overly saturated, so we can take on a little bit of rain, but again, farmers need to get out and get their work done and stuff like that, so we don't want to put too many of these soggy days together, and we want some dry time, which I think we will get starting this weekend, it appears. And with sunshine returning, I do think we're going to see a nice little warm up. I've got near 80-degree days both Saturday and Sunday, with rain chances possibly returning into Monday. The 6 to 10 day outlook looks to be above average in terms of temperatures and slightly above average in terms of precipitation. For the 8 to 14 day outlook, above average temperatures and again, slightly above average precipitation over the next 8 to 14 days. So that will take you to the middle of the month. The revised October outlook, pretty good chance for above average temperatures through the end of the month. And it looks like the southwestern part of the state has a slight chance for above average precipitation, equal chances for the rest of the state to go either above or below. October, as we just mentioned, typically not always one of the wetter months that we have here in the calendar season, which with it being harvest time, not a bad thing. And you know what? We did all right the past few months when it came to precipitation. All right, that puts the wraps up on this podcast, episode number 34. Thanks for spending at least a few minutes of your day with me. We always want to hear your feedback and maybe your ideas on what you'd like to hear on the podcast. You can email me anytime at marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. You can also follow me on social media, Facebook, just search for Marcus Bailey Weather. And I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Marcus Bailey. While you're here, make sure to check out all the other great podcasts right now on the All Indiana Podcast Network. We'll talk to you next week.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com, and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.